Relatives of a mentally ill West Boca Raton man say beware. They say their cousin, who suffers from a paranoia disorder, was taken advantage of, handing over the deed of his house to his neighbors for $10. In a story you'll see only on 5, the family wants the deal overturned. Rochelle Ritchie is live in the newsroom with more. Rochelle?
Well, Tanya, the attorney for the neighbor saying he can't talk about what he calls a valid deal. But the man's family certainly isn't biting their tongue tonight.
You did what?
It's a question Michael Deaver had to answer to his cousin after he told him he signed over the deed to his mobile home for just $10.
They got something for nothing off of a sick man.
Speaking to us by phone from his home 27 hours away in Portland, Maine, Keith Costello tells us how his cousin, who suffers from delusions and paranoia, handed over the last thing he had.
Somehow they gained his confidence enough for him in the state of psychosis to sign over a house to him for $10.
Costello says his cousin flew to Maine the day the deed was signed, June 17th, but never told him what he had done, only saying he was scared and needed to leave Florida.
He was in fear. He was completely confused.
A week after arriving, Deaver attempted suicide and was placed in a mental hospital where he was diagnosed with psychosis with delusional paranoia.
I'm sickened.
It wasn't until 2 months later, after months of therapy and medication, Costello learned of his cousin's deal.
Nobody knew that this was going on. As that house was paid off, he owned it outright. There was no money owed on it.
According to Costello, the property appraised for $64,000. We tried to speak to those who profited the most, Deaver's neighbors, but they blamed it all on him. Costello says it doesn't take a genius to look at such a deal and raise an eyebrow. He says selling his cousin's home could have helped pay for his much-needed health care and a new place to live.
He faces basically a lifetime on antipsychotic medication and continuing care that we don't know how we're going to pay for.
And Deaver is now out of the mental hospital, but is staying in a room the size of a college dormitory at a YMCA in Maine. His cousin says they are seeking legal help. Live in the newsroom, Rochelle Ritchie, WPTV News Channel 5.